Good afternoon. This is John Honker with Magellan Advisors, and welcome to our presentation. We wanted to first give a note of thanks to Texas Municipal League and our member cities who we're really excited to present to today on regional broadband partnerships. Today, what we're going to be talking about is how to bring stakeholder collaboration together among multiple communities to expand broadband access in Texas municipalities and surrounding communities. So my name is John Honker with Magellan Advisors. Today on the phone, we also have Jessica Zufalo, who is our VP of Rural Broadband Grants and Loans, as well as Jory Wolf, who is our VP of Digital Innovation. Today, what you're going to learn on our presentation is number one, why develop regional strategies for broadband? Number two, how to organize stakeholders across regional communities, bring leadership and build political will for broadband expansion. How to support economic development through regional broadband approaches that bring all communities up in terms of job creation and retention. Identify some example broadband projects that have been successful in actually driving economic development. And finally, go after funding for regional broadband projects and identify the key funding sources that are going to be really imperative as you think about how to fund your broadband projects and bring it to fruition. So this value for TML members, we feel, is going to create new opportunities. We see Texas as being a leading state in achieving its broadband goals and driving broadband into more communities. A little bit about us. Magellan has been working in Texas for the past 10 years. We are an engineering, construction management, planning, and consulting firm. We work with about 400 municipalities across the country. We are a partner to them in helping them expand broadband, not only for residents and businesses, but also for schools, for hospitals, for healthcare organizations, driving broadband deeper and deeper into communities to help them be more competitive. As we've done this, we've been able to bring over 50 new broadband networks to communities across the U.S., predominantly fiber and high-speed wireless, and generate $1 billion in new investments in broadband across the U.S. that organizations like TML's members can take advantage of and accelerate their communities forward. As I mentioned before, we work heavily in Texas. Some of our clients, City of Dayton, City of Lucas, City of Mont Belvieu, City of College Station, the Northeast Texas Consortium of Colleges and Universities, City of New Braunfels, and City of Thompson's. In all these projects, we've helped partner with our cities to drive new broadband access. And in cities like Mont Belvieu, we've gone as far as help them bring the fastest internet in Texas to their small community, and by bringing a fiber to the home network to the city residents and businesses, and provide a turnkey solution for them to allow a city like Mont Belvieu to build out, do it successfully, and bring fiber broadband to every home and business across their community. As I mentioned, we're turnkey broadband planning, design engineering, turnkey implementation, including construction management, inspections, and launch of networks. So we really partner with our clients, soup to nuts, to help them from the very first step of improving broadband in the community, all the way to building networks and making them operational and successful for our clients. Along the way, we rely on a significant portion of grant funding to do this. We help our clients gain grants across multiple federal programs, and have secured over $300 million in grants for our clients over the past 3 years. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jory, who's going to talk a little bit about a case study of a regional government that was able to use its collaboration to drive economic development through broadband.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to share with you a really good example of a regional focus, a collaboration of 15 cities in Southern California, made up of many cities along the coast and some inland for the coalition of governments in the South Bay. This started with a economic development study, which was done by Magellan, looking to see how they might be able to use broadband as a way in which to invigorate and stimulate the local economy, especially with jobs. Funding was first provided by the Workforce Investment Board, and continued funding was provided by the Coalition of Governments. The 15 cities banded together and formed this coalition to look at how broadband fiber optic networks within the region could stimulate a new economy, create jobs, retain the jobs and the high-paying jobs that already exist in the area, and to attract new businesses to come and to maintain the quality of life and the value of the homes that are in the area. We looked at a broadband fiber optic network as promoting stimulus, economic stimulus in the region, and envisioned a almost 100-mile network that would connect all of the cities, and then for reducing their costs for telecommunications leases that they were paying 3 times more for getting 1/10 of the speed that they would ultimately get by implementing a 1 gig and 10 gig backbone network. We looked at funding opportunities, and there were many at the state and at the federal level. We found local money also through LA Metro, which is the major metropolitan transit organization for Southern California. We obtained $8.1 million of money, of funds from LA Metro from transportation grants, which was part of Measure M, which was a ballot initiative to improve transportation within the region. And because of COVID and because of the need for workforce development, for telework, for telehealth, and for distance learning, we were able to use this transportation network and the funding for that to promote telework and telehealth and distance learning within the region. We have been able to save the cities considerable amounts of money through the implementation of this network. The network is now almost complete. It will be fully live and operational in all respects the end of November of 2020. We developed a strategy to organize the region around economic development, starting with the economic development managers, the public works folks, the people in IT, education, transit, and health. And we put together various applications for funding, for smart city funding, for funding for telework and telehealth. And we also involved all of the city managers, all of the city councils. We created resolutions at the council level for that. All of the councils would support this network, the construction and the funding for this network. And through that, we were able to get the political will that was necessary to obtain the funds from county supervisors and from the state. We then worked with them in the second phase of the project in putting out a competitive RFP looking for providers that would be able to build this network from scratch, because these cities by themselves and collectively still did not have enough assets to connect all the cities together. We put together a RFP, we selected a provider. The provider has built this network and it is now owned and operated for the cities. And by this provider who is now marketing the network and operating the network and attracting new customers in the form of anchor institutions and local businesses. We've also connected this network to a much larger network for Caltrans, which is the Department of Transportation organization for the state of California, for LA Metro, and for LA County. So this is now not just a regional network that serves the 15 cities in the coalition, but it is now a regional economic development engine and a transportation network that serves most of Southern California within the LA region. I'd like to turn it over to Jessica now, who will tell you more about funding opportunities.
Thank you, Jory. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all the Texas municipal governments about the opportunities to bring broadband to all of your communities. I'm a former official from USDA Rural Development, and specifically the Rural Utility Service, so it's an honor to have a chance to speak with you about some of the funding mechanisms that are available to all of you. One of the funding opportunities that I just want to touch upon, and what I ended up doing and what our team decided to do, is pull out some of the key mechanisms that all of you are eligible for and that can really transform your communities in a variety of ways. Clearly, economic development across Texas is critical, now more than ever. And COVID has revealed that without broadband access, these communities are digital deserts, and they're also a challenge economically, but specifically for job creation and for basic quality of life and for sustainability long term. One of the programs I wanted to speak about today is the RUS Electric Loan Program and some of the things you can do with that program that not a lot of folks know about. There is authority that RUS has in the 2018 Farm Bill that allows for borrowers to take 10% of their loans and dedicate that 10% of a total loan package for a retail broadband network offering. So if you are a local community, or if you partner with a cooperative, or even if a municipal entity applies on their own, which they are all eligible to do, you can use 10% of your award towards a smart grid related project. The total project needs to be smart grid related, so anything around updating meters, any kind of grid modernization, any way to really reflect to the RUS that you're really serious about bringing innovation to rural homes and business. 10% of that can be used for retail broadband service, which is really exciting. This is very rare and certainly very new. The service area for this for the RUS Electric program, you have to be in a community of a population of 20,000 or less. So I just want to make sure folks know that, and there's ways to strategize these projects, and I'd love to help kind of think about how some of the members that are listening can utilize this. Next slide. The next RUS program I want to talk about is the Reconnect Loan and Grant Program. And I know that many of you know about the Reconnect. It's very, very high profile program, and it's one that's doing amazing things in Texas and across the country in rural America. About $550 million is available for grants, loans, as well as loan grant combination awards, depending on the financial feasibility and the needs and the demand and the total project scope. So some projects get 100% grant, and some get a piece of a grant, but then the majority of it is a loan component. And so USDA uses those mechanisms to try to really cover the cost of the project and help the applicant get across the finish line. Again, similar to the other program, the electric loan program, the population threshold for this is 20,000 or less. And specifically, you get extra points for this program if you are building out in an agriculturally rich area, which is pretty much all of Texas in many, many ways. USDA is very, very serious about precision agriculture. And so if you had an agricultural component in providing broadband to farm fields and farming homes and businesses, you get extra points. This is just a really terrific opportunity to think about ways to deploy. There might be a third round of Reconnect Awards in 2021. We're going to be following that very, very closely, and we're excited to stay on top of it and make sure that Texas is part of the equation for some of the money that comes out. Next slide. Now I want to talk on slide 11 about a very, very new initiative that's come out of USDA. So on September 14th of this month, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Rural Development announced something really, really innovative. What they decided was 10% of pretty much a large cross-section of loan and grant programs within rural development can be used for broadband. This is so brand new. This is so revolutionary in a lot of ways and exciting, because the programs that I have listed on the slide are really great complements to when you're thinking about trenching and you're thinking about deploying service. So one of the things I wanted to highlight is the water and waste program known as WEP. Many Texas municipal governments have received, successfully used and built out water and sewer systems using the USDA Rural Development Water Funds. Now, the way this works is you have to be eligible for the program, right? So you have to be eligible for the Water and Sewer Authority money that is listed on this. But 10% of your award can be used for broadband. So what you could do is think creatively about how you want to use your total funds to maybe bring in a partner or even just a municipal system to build out networks and utilizing existing rights of way. Again, just ways to think creatively and smartly and cost effectively about bringing broadband to your area. The multifamily housing program is great, and in rural America, housing, we have a huge housing crisis. The cost of housing is so expensive. And under the multifamily housing, you can use 10% of your award to bring inside wiring throughout your multifamily dwelling. So there's just lots of really terrific things that I wanted to make sure all of you in the Texas Municipal League are aware of. And it's just brand new. I would encourage, if you're interested in this program or just how this authority works, to go to the Texas Rural Development State Office. They're working around the clock to figure out how to push out funding through these programs in the quickest way possible. Next slide. I want to just talk briefly about the Community Connect program that's administered through the RUS. Again, many of you may already know this, but it's a really terrific opportunity to bring community-based solutions to municipal governments, and munis certainly, as well as all kinds of entities, are eligible for this program. It provides up to $3 million in awards to eligible applicants that are required to provide either fixed or mobile broadband at the minimum speeds of 25 megabits up, 3 megabits down, which is the same level as the FCC criteria, in rural and underserved areas of a population of 20,000 or less. And the award period is for 2 years. So it requires the awardee to build out. One of the key requirements here is to, as a condition of the award, you have to build out broadband to all the community anchor institutions and provide service to them for free for 2 years. And that's really to help build adoption for broadband across an area. And it's just so many great success stories. When I was at RUS, we did a lot of great projects in Texas, and I'd love to share any of them with you whenever you wish. Next slide. Now I want to talk about just switching agencies. The Department of Housing and Urban Development administers a program that is then managed very actively by the states. The Community Development Block program is one that is a highly disaggregated program that's managed on a state-by-state basis because it's a block grant. And in Texas, there's a lot of really creative work going on with how to use CDBG money, in particular the disaster mitigation grants, to deploy broadband in rural underserved as well as urbanized areas. So in 2019, HUD received about $4.3 billion in CDBG money, which is now being administered by the Texas General Land Office. And this money is being used in so many creative ways. But one of the specific things that we wanted to highlight for you today is that you can use this money to build out fiber optic networks. You can use it for a mobile fixed wireless system. as long as the project is really focused on disaster mitigation and helping communities become as economically resilient with infrastructure. So there are great examples that are in motion today. There are lots of discussion happening in the municipal communities across Texas about how to use CDBG money. And I think this is another creative way to use funds from another agency that doesn't always work on broadband to really utilize broadband funds to meet your needs. Next slide. Finally, I want to just mention the Commerce Department's Economic Development Agency and the CARES money that was administered and provided to EDA. They received about $1.5 billion in CARES funding for economic assistance to communities that are impacted by COVID-19. And we all know that Texas has been hit quite hard by COVID, as well as, you know, natural disasters. So this is a program that we just think is so ideally suited for Texas. It is broad-based. There is no urban or rural requirement like USDA is. And it really allows for communities to be really creative about what they need and highlighting the needs and really making the case that economic distress has really impacted the community to be eligible. EDA covers close to 100% of a total project cost, which is just very, very rare. So we wanted to bring this to your attention because this is a program that you can do a lot of things with, and specifically you can use it for broadband, no question. Certainly construction of infrastructure and digital infrastructure is used in this program as well. And there's a lot of really successful examples of how EDA money has been used nationwide and even in Texas to transform the quality of life and economic landscape of communities in urban and rural areas. And that's it for federal overview, and I look forward to connecting with all of you at another point. So now back to you, John.
Thanks, Jessica. And just to recap, again, for our TML members, we wanted to really inform about the broadband environment in Texas as it pertains to municipalities. What are cities doing today? How are they doing it? And most importantly, where's the money? How can you get funding, and where is the funding available? Jessica leads our broadband funding group, and you can get a hold of her by email at gig@magellan-advisors.com. And we're happy to provide any assistance on designing funding programs, developing funding strategies, or just call us if you need to chat to figure out which one may be right for you. Again, as we look at the future of what Texas communities are doing and the opportunities, funding is a major part of it. And what we are seeing, and is very important for munis to think about, is nearly every agency that's out there with a funding program is now pushing some type of broadband component into their programs. We've seen that with housing and urban development. We've seen that with RUS. We've seen that with the EDA. So we really need to be looking at how to utilize these funding programs in cooperation with one another, or sort of grant stacking, to bring broadband into our communities and to do it now. The time is now to do it. COVID is really transforming the landscape, and we see now just how lacking some of our Texas communities have been as COVID pushes the limits of broadband speeds and reliability. And what we've seen recently is, you know, municipalities taking charge and saying, we're going to do something about it, and we're going to make sure our communities are secure for the future. And with that, I would like to thank everyone again from the TML community and TML itself for a great opportunity here. And please contact us with any questions you have. We look forward to serving our Texas communities and making sure every Texan has access to broadband. Thank you.